It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as a warrant has been issued for the arrest of a former WWE and TNA talent, an AEW star has been cleared for a return to television, and Bray Wyatt reacts to comments from a current WWE superstar. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first... Last week, Bryan Danielson competed in a match with current AEW World Champion Kenny Omega, which resulted in a time limit draw. Whilst there has been calls for a rematch between the two, Omega has ruled out this possibility. Bryan Danielson cut a promo on this week's episode of AEW Dark Elevation and laid out his plans to secure the match, stating he is ready to climb through the AEW ranking system to get his hands on Omega once again, and also revealed that his goal is to become the AEW World Champion. And he said, "I get how AEW works, there's a ranking system, and there's a ton of guys here that I'd love to kick their heads in for. I'm going to go through all of them, and no matter how many guys it takes, my goal is to go for that AEW championship." There's a chance that AEW will book the rematch at the upcoming Full Gear pay-per-view, this time for the title. The Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that Bryan Danielson or Adam Page could be the #1 contender come November 13th. Next up, we have a report from What Culture in regards to an upcoming WWE show in the United Kingdom, with them said to be set to hold a major pay-per-view from across the pond. A source has told them that the plan is for WWE to host the show in September next year, with them eyeing up a stadium in the region of 90,000 seats, which just so happens to be the capacity of Wembley Stadium. Wembley is the home of the England national football team and is the largest stadium in the country. Whilst the UK is not short of large venues with 9 football and rugby stadiums exceeding 60,000 seats, it seems WWE could be targeting the biggest of them all, although it's worth remembering that more seats would be added to the pitch at a wrestling event, which leaves open the possibility of Old Trafford, which is the home of Manchester United, or perhaps even the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is brand new and recently hosted a huge boxing event headlined by Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. WWE last hosted a major pay-per-view in the UK in 1992, which was in fact from the previously mentioned Wembley Stadium, albeit the old one. The original stadium was built in 1923 before undergoing a complete rebuild in 2003, then reopening in 2007. With AEW said to be preparing for their first UK tour within the coming year, and WWE hosting a major pay-per-view, it seems that the UK fans could be in for a treat. This past week, PWG hosted their Three Mendes 6 event from the Globe Theatre in Los Angeles, California. The show featured many names from across the wrestling world, with talent from MLW, Ring of Honor, AEW, and many more showing up on the Super Indie event. One of the matches that went down was for the vacant PWG Tag Team titles, belts that have been without a holder since the 26th of September 2020, when the Rascals joined WWE NXT. 1 year to the day, the belts were on the line for the first time since, with Ring of Honor's Brody King and AEW's Malakai Black teaming up against Black Taurus of Impact Wrestling and Flamita again of Ring of Honor. In the end, Black and King would come away with the victory after King pinned Flamita following a pile driver, and this is the first time that the team known as the Kings of the Black Throne have held the belts. Elsewhere on the show, Ring of Honor champion Bandito would successfully defend his PWG World title against MLW's Davey Richards, and will now face Alex Shelley in his next title match after the former Motor City Machine Gun submitted Jonathan Gresham with the Rings of Saturn earlier in the night to become the #1 contender. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head, hopefully, towards 100,000 subscribers. But now, let's press play on the video. AEW President Tony Khan appeared on Busted Open Radio this week and would discuss the recent relationship between All Elite Wrestling and the Owen Hart Foundation, with plans for Owen-related merchandise, action figures, as well as an appearance in the AEW console game in the works. There is also scheduled to be an Owen Hart Cup, which will happen in AEW, with the winner receiving a trophy called the Owen. Khan would have praise for Owen's wife Martha Hart, who is the founder of the Owen Hart Foundation, and he said, "Martha is a very principled woman, to say the least. She's a very intelligent woman, and she thought long and hard about this, and we talked for a long time about this. I talked to Martha about this for over a year on a regular basis. She put a lot of thought into it." She's a really good person, and I think she wanted to make sure that we're good people too. And I really like Martha a lot, and I just can't say enough great things about the legacy of Owen Hart and how much it means to so many of us. Tony would reveal that he has some big plans for the Owen Hart Cup, and he said, "What a great opportunity this is to celebrate his life. We had this in the works for a long time. The Owen, I think, can be a very special prize in wrestling. I think people are going to want to win the Owen, and I believe we'll really establish it as a special thing in AEW. I've got a few match announcements and a few big booking plans up my sleeve that I'm excited for people to find out about, and that's all coming in due time. The Owen Hart announcement is really big for us." Khan would reveal that he was introduced to Martha through Chris Jericho, who was the narrator for the recent Owen Hart episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Whilst the date of the Owen Hart Cup is still unknown, it looks like it's going to be a big deal when it comes around and could easily become one of the biggest tournaments in professional wrestling. Next up, a bench warrant has been issued for the arrest of a former WWE developmental and TNA talent. A bench warrant is issued when a defendant failed to appear to a scheduled court hearing. The warrant was issued on Thursday the 23rd of September, calling for the arrest of Tranisha Biggers, known as Raka Khan in TNA. She is scheduled to go on trial on charges of interference with child custody and aggravated kidnapping facilitate, which involves taking or keeping a child when you know that doing so violates a court order or judgment and is a state felony punishable by up to 2 years in prison, with the trial scheduled to begin on Monday 4th of October in El Paso, Texas. She was moved to WWE's developmental territory, Deep South Wrestling, in 2005 after being discovered in the Divas search. She was then released in May of 2006 before joining TNA 2 years later after a short run in Japan with 0-1 before being released in 2009. She went on to work in Lucha Libre USA before leaving the wrestling business in 2011. She is also known for her previous relationship with WWE Hall of Famer Kurt Angle. Biggers was listed as one of El Paso's most wanted fugitives after she failed to appear in court twice, originally being placed on charges in August 2019. Next up, we have a health update regarding an AEW star who has been missing from television as of late. Jake the Snake Roberts has not been seen for a number of weeks, and the Wrestling Observer recently reported that he was missing due to undisclosed health issues. In an update from Bodyslam.net's Cassidy Haynes, Roberts has been absent due to an ongoing foot surgery where he has had to have pins in some of his toes. He is said to be returning to television soon, where he acts as the manager of former IWGP United States champion Lance Archer. As of late, Archer has instead been reunited with Suzuki-gun tag team partner Minoru Suzuki, although he will likely be rejoined on television by Jake the Snake, who is being cleared by doctors to return to work. Jake Roberts is also set to appear at the New York Comic Con on October 7th as part of the Headlocked Comics and Heroes Hideout booth. And finally, Seth Rollins appeared in an interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin on Broken Skull Sessions on the WWE Network and would discuss the much criticized ending to WWE Hell in a Cell 2019. In the main event of the show, Rollins would defend his Universal title against the Fiend Bray Wyatt inside the steel structure, with the match ending due to referee stoppage. This was met with heavy criticism from both fans and the wrestlers involved, with Seth stating that he was ready to strangle WWE Chairman Vince McMahon when he got backstage, and he would say, "I put a positive spin on it now that I look back at it a year and a half later, but at the time, I came through that curtain and I was ready to strangle Vince McMahon. I'm not kidding you, TJ Wilson was there to hold me back. I stared right into Vince's eyes, you know where he sits in that chair over there in Gorilla. I look at him, he looked at me, we didn't say a single word to each other, and he walked out." Bray Wyatt, who is now a free agent following his WWE release at the end of July, has responded to Seth's comments by taking to Twitter to say, "Wait until you hear my reaction." Wyatt is said to be debuting this Wednesday on AEW Dynamite in Rochester, New York, the hometown of the late great Brody Lee. If he does indeed show up, it could lead to a very interesting episode of the AEW Unrestricted podcast. Many fans feel that Wyatt's Fiend character was ruined by WWE, not only in the Hell in a Cell match, but the Goldberg loss in Saudi Arabia also being a notable incident. It'll be interesting to hear from the man himself on the matter, with him likely wanting to discuss the fall of the Fiend in upcoming upcoming interviews. And before you go, why not check out my video where I discuss 10 wrestlers that would be perfect members of the Elite.